The US government, in particular the Department of Justice, has just sued Apple, and the allegations are pretty bad. On the news alone, Apple stock was down 3%, and it's been on a slide, underperforming a lot of its peers like Meta, Microsoft, Google, and other big tech companies. But now Apple has responded, and they have a lot to say about each allegation laid on them. Let's break down all of these allegations and see if Apple actually has a point. And also, what does the future for this company hold, given that it has so much competitive pressure now, with other tech companies seeming to be a better investment. This lawsuit in particular targets the iPhone. The iPhone is a $200 billion revenue stream for Apple, a behemoth. And if the iPhone's production unit was its own economy, it would be bigger than every economy in the world except maybe 58 countries. So it is a pretty big deal for the DOJ to be doing this. The first allegation by the Department of Justice is that Apple blocks super apps. Super apps are apps that provide multi-functionality services within themselves. Something like Facebook maybe that has messaging. You can post reels, you can post ads, you can buy things on it. Something like Line or Grab where you can go and order food and book a taxi at the same time, like Uber. And also a lot of gaming super apps where you can go and buy in-game currency, buy in-game products, or buy downloadable content that you can then use with your games. Apple has simply said that it's never banned super apps. Apps like Facebook, Line, even WeChat in China can be classified as super apps because you can do multiple things in them. So it's pretty unclear, according to Apple, what the DOJ is talking about in the first place, and they'll have to wait for some official details for them to have a more concise reply. But I guess what the DOJ is talking about here is that Apple takes commission from super apps on every purchase that they make, and that commission is pretty hefty at 30% as well. And they have to make every purchase through the App Store. So if you buy a game for, let's say, $30, they're gonna get 30% of that. And then every time you buy an in-game item or in-game currency, they're going to get 30% of that as well. And the DOJ claims that this is anti-competitive and is stopping people from truly making high-functioning super apps. And what adds on to this is that the App Store is the only store that developers are allowed to publish apps on in many countries, apart from Europe, where you can get third-party app stores to get some of your apps. So I guess it is somewhat of a de facto monopoly, but Apple's responded to this by saying that the DOJ has left out the fact that 85% of developers or thereabouts paid no commission to Apple, and a lot of them can actually qualify for reduced commission at 15%. This is a positive where a lot of people don't have to pay that 30% commission, but doesn't address the fact that the App Store is still a monopoly. We're not able to get apps on the iPhone if you don't use the App Store, so that means that it is the only option available if you want to download any app. That, by definition, sounds like a monopoly. But what do I know? Apple does have a strong claim on this though, because Epic Games and Apple have been to court before on a very similar issue, and Apple actually won that. Epic Games claimed that Apple very anti-competitively took 30% of commission and didn't allow them to get a fair share of their revenue from the games that they made. Even though Apple won, people still have big questions as to why they're not able to get third-party app stores to get their applications. Perhaps the strongest claim here is allegedly that Apple has made the quality of cross-platform messaging much worse, much less secure, and much less innovative. And that encourages people to keep on buying iPhones. Now, what the DOJ is talking about in particular is probably Android to iPhone messaging and the stark quality between SMS and iMessage. Apple's worked a lot to improve the quality of iMessage through the years, with users having a lot of high functionality on it now that they didn't perhaps have 5 years ago, but the quality of SMS has stayed the same since the iPhone launched. Also, the DOJ claims that SMS is only available through Apple Messages. Currently, Apple does not allow SMSs to be run through any third-party applications. This further increases their monopolistic behavior. Apple's response to this is that they don't really have any data from consumers that they need SMS on third-party applications, and it's also not a feature that's used by many users on Android itself. They also claim that companies like WhatsApp not offering SMS is further testament to the fact that people choose and prefer to use online messaging. Another popular messaging service called Signal also removed SMS support for Android, which also furthers their belief. Apple also claims that SMS is inherently insecure because you cannot encrypt and decrypt certain things in SMS. And there's also a big problem of being able to send limited file sizes. Sharing media is very common on messaging nowadays, and if SMS cannot provide that, people are not going to use it inherently. Although it does claim it's working on a new universal option for Android to iOS messages called RCS, which is going to be more secure secure and allow users to send larger messages than traditional SMS. So it is addressing that aspect of the lawsuit, but something it's not addressing is that Apple is reducing the functionality of third-party smartwatches on the iPhone just so that people can keep on buying the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is a $40 billion revenue stream for Apple and does have some pretty big fans. The DOJ claims that by limiting the functionality of these third-party smartwatches, for example, your Samsung watches, your Fitbits, etc., Apple is just motivating people to buy iPhones just so that they can also then get the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch fits a particular niche of people. It has great features to track, for example, your health and your calories, the steps that you're taking, and also take calls and messages and see notifications. If these functionalities are not available on third-party watches or are regressed, people are just not going to buy them and keep on buying the Apple Watch and the iPhone to pair with it. Apple's response to this is simply that it's just not technically feasible for them to account for every single smartwatch on the planet. There's hundreds of smartwatch manufacturers in all different parts of the world, all having different OS sometimes and different ways of interacting with devices. So for them to prioritize this, it's just not technically possible because they can't fit this into their roadmap. They have better things to worry about, for example, selling us a $3,000 headset called the Vision Pro. But in all seriousness, it's an opportunity cost issue. If Apple has to prioritize making sure that most smartwatches don't see limited functionality, they're going to have to deprioritize other money-making items for them that probably have a better return. Plus, they also claim that any smartwatch that is accessible on the iPhone and can be used uses Apple APIs already to interact with the phone. So these companies are paying Apple already, so it doesn't make sense to undermine them because it's a win-win situation. Either you buy the Apple Watch or you buy the API, Apple still makes money. The rich get richer. Even if the smartwatch functionality is not feasible, something that DOJ does claim is feasible is allowing users to use third-party tap-to-pay services. Currently, if you have an iPhone, you can load on your credit cards, your debit cards, your gift cards, etc. to the Apple Wallet and then use Apple Pay to tap and pay for your groceries, getting some cheeky drinks, or buying lottery tickets. Whatever you want to do, you can use Apple Pay. They don't allow third-party digital wallets. Apple claims that this is just for safety. Any app can get access to Apple Pay and process payments contactless using the iPhone. They don't want third parties to have access to the NFC technology itself to protect users. So it's a win-win situation. If you're a third party, you still get access to process that contactless payment, and as a user, your data and your credit cards and financial information is also protected. Their last claim, and something that I still couldn't find research on, or I guess I'm not smart enough to understand, is that Apple is blocking the development of streaming apps so that users can take advantage of high-quality video game streaming, specifically without having to pay for expensive hardware. And Apple's quite simply just rejected this point blank and said, we've never done that. And in fact, we've changed our terms and service to encourage people to develop more mobile streaming apps. So Apple's rejected all of these claims, but it remains to be seen what the impact of this is going to be on Apple's future, and in particular, their stock price and their market standing. Full disclosure, I am an Apple shareholder, so I just had to say that. But I do think Apple's lagged in performance compared to its peers because it's missed out on the AI opportunity. The markets are forward-looking, and a lot of the times, your importance in the market is dictated by how well you can incorporate what the market expects. Right now, AI is expected, and the market expects you to incorporate AI. Apple's quite clearly missed out on this opportunity till now, in particular with Siri, its voice assistant. I first got an iPhone 6. Now I have an iPhone 14. Siri has not improved in 8 years. It can pretty much do the same things. It's used for the same old tricks, and quite honestly, I don't even use it anymore because it's not that useful. But here lies the opportunity. How can Apple fix this? How can Apple use all of its terabytes of data and add on to this voice assistant experience? Because you have to take this into account. Apple controls all of the hardware. It has the best in market phone, the best in market laptop, a leading market wearable in the Apple Watch, and now it's trying to push the $3,000 headset that we all love, the Vision Pro, that it claims is going to be the future of work and how we interact with each other. But controlling all this hardware only goes so far. It has to figure out how to add value to this. And right now it can only be done through integrating some sort of AI service to the products. Then it can maybe sell as a subscription. Maybe not the best for us, but good for the company. Whether Apple can do this or not still remains to be seen. People are still curious as to what their AI play is going to be, which is probably going to be revealed later on this year. But it is refreshing to see the government sort of care about antitrust behavior. They're probably not going to fix this. This lawsuit is probably not going to go anywhere, but at least the big tech monopolies of Microsoft, Apple, Google, etc. are coming into question. Because competition is good for everybody. It's good for the little guys, but it's also good for the big guys. It forces them to be more efficient and also come up with better products for consumers, and in the end, consumers win. Whether or not this goes anywhere remains to be seen, but Apple's future is sort of in their own hands. They have all the hardware, they have all the data, they just need to link it both together using what the market expects, which is AI. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. And also subscribe and like and comment your favorite fruit, because we're talking about Apple.